Okay, well, let's begin. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. Wa ba'd. All right, so let's continue where we left off. We covered all of this, the different religions. We talked about the attributes of Allah. We talked about prophethood, talked about the Prophet Muhammad, talked about the Quran, talked about the Sunnah. Okay, so now continuing, we're going to begin with purification. Now, when we say purification, the Arabic word is tahara, and purification in Islam is referring to cleaning yourself for Islamic purposes. Right? So when we say purification in Islam, it basically means two things. It's either a certain type of washing that you do, which is symbolic, or it's a physical purification that you do, and you are going to be doing this primarily for prayer. Now, why do we do this? Because when you're going to pray, you want to make sure that when you pray, you're standing in front of Allah. So when you pray, if you were going to go and meet some really famous, important person, would you want to go like all smelly and stinking and stuff like that? No, you'd want to look nice, you'd want to be presentable, you'd want to wash yourself. So when we're going in front of Allah, Allah knows everything. We wash ourselves properly so that we can be ready for the prayer. There's two types of washing. There's a symbolic washing, which is like wudu, we're going to talk about. And then there's physical. So if you have like blood on your clothes, or you have blood on your leg or something like that, you want to make sure that you wash it off before you're going to pray. So that's what we mean by purification in Islam. So the reason why we do it is because it's a sign of respect to Allah, that we should clean ourselves properly, nicely, before we stand in front of Allah. Okay. Now, the first type of purification is wudu. Now, wudu, sometimes they translate wudu into English as ablution. I don't like that translation, because if you ask the average American in the whole country, it's like, what is ablution? Like, nobody knows what that is. It came from the Catholic Church. It's a Catholic thing that some Catholics know, but even most Catholics don't even know this word, right? It's kind of a strange word. So I think this is one of the few words that we should always use the Arabic for. Just call it wudu. Okay. So what is wudu? Wudu is when you wash yourself before prayer. So now let's talk about how we perform wudu. Oh, wait. Thought I had another. Okay. So the recommended way to make wudu. The first thing we do before we start, we should have the intention that we're making wudu. So before you start, you should be thinking, at least in your mind, I am making wudu. What would be the opposite of that? Opposite of that would be you jump into a swimming pool, and then you swim around, and then you come out. You're like, well, I washed everything, Did you have the intention to make wudu? No. So you should have the intention, at least in your mind, when you turn on the water, you should walk in, turn on the water and think, I am making wudu. Why am I making wudu? I'm making wudu because I'm going to be praying. I'm going to get myself ready for prayer. So the first thing you do before you start making wudu is you have the intention. The second thing you do is you say, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, which means I'm beginning in the name of Allah, the compassionate, the merciful. So you begin the action of wudu by mentioning the name of Allah. Now, usually, where do you make wudu? In the bathroom. Now, is there a problem with saying Bismillah in the bathroom? There is. You're not supposed to say the name of Allah inside the bathroom. So now how do you do this if you're going to make wudu inside the bathroom? Some bathrooms are separate. There's a toilet, separate bathroom, and then there's the sink area, completely separate. They're not in the same room. That one, it's no problem. You can say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim and start your wudu. But what do you do if the toilet and the sink is in the same room? Now you have a problem. So how do you solve this problem? So you have two options. Either one, you don't say Bismillah out loud, you just say it in your mind. What's option number two? Say it before you enter. Exactly. So right before you enter into the bathroom, you say Bismillah. You make the intention, I'm making wudu. Say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And then you walk into the bathroom. Solves that problem. Now, the recommended way, this is all the recommended way to make wudu. You begin by washing your hands 3 times. When you wash your hands, you wash up to the wrist and including the wrists, okay, up to the, where the wrist bone is. And then before you rinse your mouth, it's recommended to actually brush your teeth. So you either brush your teeth with the toothbrush, or you could brush your teeth with a toothstick. If you've ever seen a toothstick, it's called a miswak. You've seen one of those? It's like actually a stick which bristles if you chew it, and you could brush your teeth with that. And this is what the Prophet used to do, peace be upon him. Even while he was in the middle of wudu, or sometimes before wudu, he would go and he would brush his teeth. So that's a good practice if you can do that. Or if you don't, you can actually just take your finger, and if you have something stuck in your teeth, you were just eating lunch, you want to get that out of your teeth. So you just put your finger in there and you use it like a toothbrush, and you get whatever's in your teeth out. Then after that, you're going to rinse your mouth 3 times. So you use your right hand, you cup some water, you take it into your mouth, swirl it around, and then spit it out. And you're trying to get everything out that's in your mouth. You're trying to spit it all out. If there's any little pieces of food, trying to make sure that your breath becomes a little bit cleaner by, rinsing your mouth and cleaning your mouth with some water. Like if you ate some really chocolatey, gooey brownies, right? What would you want to do? You don't want to just go straight and make wudu and then you go and you have all of this chewy stuff and goo, all this stuff in your mouth. You want to rinse your mouth 3 times with water, and it's going to get all of that gooey goodness out of your mouth, okay? Because you want to make sure it's clean. Then you're going to clean your nose. So what you do is you take some more water into your right hand and you inhale the water into your nose. And then you blow it out and you blow it out. Now, what you want to do is you want to be careful. If you inhale too much, what's going to happen? It's going to be painful, actually. It's going to hurt, right? Or it could go all the way and it's going to start coming and feeling in your throat. So you don't want to inhale too much, right? But you don't want to not bring anything into your mouth. Some people, they take the water and they just dip their nose into it and nothing goes in. That doesn't do anything. The goal is to actually get water into your nose and then you blow it out. So all that stuff that's in your nose, that all the junk and stuff like that, it actually comes out. So you're going to do that 3 times. Then you're going to take both your hands and you're going to fill them with water. The water's running, and you're going to wash your entire face 3 times with water. So you're going to fill it again, 2nd time. You're going to fill it again, the 3rd time. And you're going to get the entire face. So the entire face means from here to here, and from here, top where the hair grows, to the bottom of the chin at least. So the entire face should be wet each and every single time. It's going to be 3 times. And then if you have a beard, what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to get some more water, and you're supposed to comb through your beard like this with some of the water. So you comb through your beard so that the little bit of water gets inside your beard. And this is something that the Prophet, peace be upon him, used to do, and he told us that we should be doing it as well. And then you're going to wash both your arms. You're going to start with your right arm. You're going to wash it all the way up to and including the elbow 3 times. 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. And you're going to do the same thing with your left side. 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. So right arm 3 times, left arm 3 times. Then you're going to wet your hands again, and you're going to wipe your head. And the way you wipe your head is you're going to wipe back all the way, and then you're going to bring it back again. Okay, so you're going to wipe your entire head 1 time. And then if you have some water left over on your fingers, you're going to wash the inside of your fingers. Just put some water in there, maybe on the sides over here, a little bit over here. So you're just going to do your ears 1 time. There's going to be head 1 time, and it's going to be the ears 1 time, and you could do it with the same amount of water. So what you can do is when you wipe your head, you don't use these 2 parts of the fingers. When you go like this, got all the water there, and now you still have some water here. You can just get this, okay? So that is the head and then the ears, and then you're going to do your feet. So you're going to do your right foot first. You're going to make sure that your socks are off, and you're going to wash your entire foot up to and including your ankle. Right foot first 3 times. Left foot left foot next 3 times. And make sure to get in between the toes as well when you're washing your feet, okay? And after you complete the wudu, you're supposed to make the declaration of faith. So you say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasul. If you don't have that memorized, you could just say La ilaha illallah, which means there is no God besides Allah and Muhammad is the messenger of Allah, right? So you make the declaration of faith after you make your wudu. This is the recommended way to make wudu. Now let's get into some of the details. Now there are some requirements, the minimum requirements that if you miss any of these parts, you have to go and fix it, okay? Number 1, you have to wash your face at least 1 time. So if you skip your face, if you miss even a little bit of your face, and you're like washing your face like this, but then you miss this part, you have to go back and you have to do it again, because the face is a requirement in wudu. Number 2, your arms. Both arms, 1 time. It's a requirement of wudu. If you miss any of the arm, let's say you're washing like this and then you forget your elbows, you have to go back and you have to make sure you're washing your elbow, otherwise your wudu will not count. Number 3 is part of your head. Now remember I said that it's recommended to do your entire head, but actually just part of your head is the requirement. So if you didn't wipe your entire head for some reason, right? Like for example, if you were wearing a hat and you said, you know, it's going to be really difficult, I'm kind of in a rush right now, I'm just going to pick up my hat and I'm just going to wipe like this much. Or if you have a hijab on, for example, and you're like, it's really difficult for me to remove my hijab, I'm in a public bathroom or something like that, what you can do is you could just lift up your hijab and you at least wipe over part of your head, like equal to like a hand, part of your head, and that will be sufficient for your wiping. Okay, now that's not the recommended thing. Normally, you're supposed to do the entire head. But if you needed to do something like that, you can do that. And the 4th requirement is your feet. You want to make sure that each of your foot, your right foot and your left foot, is washed completely at least 1 time. These are the bare minimum requirements. So what you need to be careful about is if you're wearing a ring, for example, and your ring is very tight, and when you're washing your hands, right, let's say your ring is really tight, so tight that water doesn't get underneath. Did you violate one of the 4 requirements? Yes, you did. Because the arms include the hands. So you violated one of the 4 requirements. You have to make sure that when you're washing your hands, you're going to move that ring just a little bit so the water gets underneath. What if you're wearing a watch and you're one of those people who wears it like on the tightest thing so it doesn't move at all, right? When you're washing, are you allowed to wear the watch? You can wear the watch, but if it's so tight and if the water doesn't get underneath, are you violating one of the requirements of wudu? Yes, you are. So you got to loosen up that watch, or you got to move it, just move it a little bit so some water gets underneath. You fulfilled the requirement. What if you were doing some school project and you have some glue on your hands? You got some glue over here, you got some glue over here. is that going to prevent the water from getting underneath to your skin? Dried glue. Dried glue is going to prevent water from getting underneath. So you need to make sure you got to remove that glue before you make the wudu. Otherwise, your wudu is not valid because it's on one of the required parts, right? So you got to be careful. What if some glue was on your ear? I don't know why, but let's say something happened. You got some glue on your ear. Is that one of the required parts? It's not a required part. So if you skip the ear for some reason, there was some glue on it, you're okay. But if you got some glue on here, or on your face, or on your foot, or somehow in your hair, you got a problem. You got to remove that glue first. What if you have paint? Same thing. You have to remove that paint away because these things prevent the water from getting underneath. What if you have a henna tattoo? You don't have to remove it because it allows the water to get underneath. What if you have a real tattoo? You shouldn't have a real tattoo in the first place, right? Get it removed, laser it off, right? Shouldn't have a real tattoo anyways. Okay, so these are the requirements. I'm going to take questions right after I finish wudu, okay? So these are the requirements of wudu. How do you lose your wudu? There are three things. Number one, if anything comes out of your private parts, you lose your wudu. What comes out of your private parts? Any type of urine, the front, any type of, stool, poop comes out from the back, any type of blood or something like that, pre-seminal fluid, semen, any of these things that come out of your private parts, it's going to break your wudu. Number one. Number two, if you pass gas, it's going to break your wudu. And number three, if you lose consciousness, it will break your wudu. So how do you lose consciousness? One way, go to sleep. If you're sleeping, you lose your wudu. Second way, if you faint. So if you faint for some reason, you have to make your wudu again. You also lose your wudu. So three things cause you to lose your wudu. Anything coming out of the private parts, passing gas, losing consciousness. There are some people have this idea that like if you change a baby's diapers, you lose your wudu. Or if you touch something, like if you touch blood, or if you touch some stool or something like that, or if you pick your nose, or if you do something like that, none of these things break your wudu. Okay, so there are some other opinions, but I'm not going to get into that. This is primarily the main thing that you should know. And lastly, when do you need wudu? Why do you need to know about this wudu? We said you need wudu for what? Why are we learning about wudu in the first place? When do you need it? To pray. And there's one more reason why you need it, to hold the Quran. So when you're holding the Quran, you're supposed to have wudu when you touch the Quran. Now, what is the Quran? The Quran is the Arabic Quran. If you have a translation of the Quran, it's only in English. You don't have to have wudu for it in order to touch it. Although it's recommended anyways, just out of respect. But if you're touching the actual Quran, then you should make sure you have wudu. Okay? Now, I'll take questions about wudu. Yes.
So if somebody, even without having socks, they wipe over their butt once without having socks, and their wudu count.
The wudu does not count. If you only wipe over your feet, but you don't wash your foot properly, then it's not going to count. So you have to use enough water that you're washing it, not just like wiping a little bit over your foot or something like that.
Like, what if they actually believe you're supposed to wipe? Like out of ignorance, they don't want it.
Well, they should take this class and they should learn that they need to wash their feet. Okay. Yes. So if you're wiping over your foot to the point that water starts dripping off, that's called washing. So as long as water starts dripping off, there's enough water, the wiping turns into washing. We're getting there. We're getting there today. So injuries will come. Okay. Any other questions about wudu?
Yeah. Throwing up also.
There's a difference of opinion on that. Right. So without getting into detail, it's better if you do make your wudu again. Okay. Okay. Next is bathing. Okay, it's called ghusl. Now there's a special type of bath. Now most people take showers, or sometimes they take a bath, but there's an Islamic bath. Okay, it's called ghusl, and you need to do it in a certain way. Now, when do you actually need to do this? There are 3 times in Islam where you need to take a bath before you can pray. So it's like, when you need wudu, usually you make wudu and you can pray or you can touch the Quran. But there are 3 times where making wudu is not enough. You need to do more than making wudu. And that is, you need to make something called ghusl when you take a bath. So 3 times. Number 1, if adult fluid comes out, known as ejaculatory fluid, either man or a woman, that is going to require you to take a bath. Okay. The second time is when somebody is trying to produce a baby. When this is a kid-friendly version, right? But you guys understand what I'm saying. So when 2 adults are trying to make a baby, when that happens, they need to go and take a bath. They must make ghusl. And number 3, at the end of the menstrual cycle of a woman. So these are the 3 times where taking a bath or making ghusl is a requirement. Wudu is not enough before you are going to go pray or before you're going to go touch a copy of the Quran. So why do you need it, right? So I just mentioned you need it if any of these 3 things happen, adult fluid, ejaculatory fluid comes out, men and women are trying to produce baby, or menstrual cycle ends. When one of these 3 things happen, you're not allowed to pray, touch the Quran, just like wudu, but you should not recite the Quran, and you should not enter into a masjid until you perform ghusl. So there's 4 things. So the 2 things for wudu, touching the Quran and praying, but there's 2 more things. Reciting Quran, even if you're not touching it, even from memory, reciting Quran out loud, you don't do it when you're in the state where you need ghusl. And it's called janaba, that's the name of the state. And number 2 is entering into a masjid until you have performed the bath or the ghusl. Okay, so that's why you need it. How do you perform it? It's similar to wudu. You start by having the intention. So your intention is, I'm not just taking a shower because I was exercising and I want to just, remove, I'm all sweaty, I just want to take a shower. You should have the intention. Say, I'm taking a bath or I'm taking a shower because I'm in this state. One of these 3 things happened, and now I need to do this in order for me to pray again. So you have the intention. Number 2, before you go in, you say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and you do it before you enter into the bathroom area, if there's a toilet there. Number 3, it's recommended while you're taking this bath or this ghusl, you're going to actually make wudu while you're in the shower or while you're in the bath. So you actually perform wudu, and then you wash the rest of your entire body. Now, the difference here is some people get confused. They're like, well, if I take a bath, right? Some people, they take a bath, like they sit in a bathtub and they never dip their head inside the water. Right? Has anyone done that? Taken a bath, not dipped your head inside the water? Never done that? You've done that. Yeah, I'm sure you've done that. All right. Sometimes people take a shower, especially girls, and they don't wash their hair, right? Because it takes a long time to dry or something like that. That is not ghusl. That's a shower. Ghusl, or this bath, this is the Islamic bath or the Islamic shower. When you need it for one of these 3 reasons, you have to wash every single part of your body, head to toe. Okay, you cannot skip any part. And you need to make sure you get to all the hard to reach places. You need to get under your arm, inside your belly button, all of these things. Make sure you get water every single place in order for it to count. Just like wudu, you want to make sure you're washing your whole face. Don't skip any part of your face. Your whole arm up to the elbow. Don't skip. Don't stop like right here. You gotta go all the way. Same thing with the ghusl. You need to make sure you wash every single part of your body, and not a single part should remain dry in order for your ghusl or your bath, your Islamic bath, to count. Okay, so that is ghusl or bathing. Questions on this? Yeah. Okay. Yes. That's it. That's I mean, the requirement is just making sure everything gets wet. Attention is recommended. Bismillah is recommended. Making wudu is recommended. Okay. Okay. Toilet manners. Okay. So Allah has taught us, Islam teaches us even the right way to use the bathroom. So when we go to the bathroom, when we use the toilet, it's very, very important. We pay proper attention and we do things correctly. Okay. So pay close attention. Yusuf, you're listening? Okay, good. All right. So first thing is when you go to the toilet, you should make sure you're secluded, that nobody else can see you, right? So sometimes people will go hiking and they're like, oh, I'm going to go to the bathroom. And they like go in the bathroom and they don't, if you need to go to the bathroom, let's say you're in nature, there's no toilets around, at least go behind a tree or behind a bush where no one else can see you. Don't just like go right there and then people can just walk in and see you, right? Same thing in a bathroom. Try to always pick a secluded area. Some places, some bathrooms and stuff, they're not even secluded. Some people don't even lock the door. People walk in. That's not part of Islam. So make sure you're alone. You're in an isolated, secluded area, like there's a stall or there's a door so no one else can see you. That's number one. Number two, do not take anything that has the name of Allah written on it in Arabic into the bathroom, unless it's in your pocket or it's in a backpack or it's not visible or something like that. Quran too. Quran too. So sometimes people they wear like a chain. It's got like a Allah on it or something like that. If you're gonna take that into the bathroom, you got to cover it up. So you put it inside your shirt. Sometimes people they're gonna wear a shirt that has like Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. What's the problem with wearing that shirt? You're gonna walk into the bathroom, you have the name of Allah displayed in the bathroom. So that's disrespectful. So what do you got to do? You got to cover it up. You put a sweatshirt on, you change your shirt. If you have a book or something like that, it's like you have a copy of the Quran. Either leave it outside or put it in a backpack and then take it inside the bathroom. So you're not supposed to take anything that has the name of Allah written on it into the bathroom. The same way you're not supposed to mention the name of Allah in the bathroom. That's why we say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim before we enter, or we could just say it in our mind. Number three, do not use the bathroom in a way that's going to harm other people. How can other people be harmed? Well, there's a few ways. One of them is, one of the things that used to happen is during the time of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, they used to go outside to the bathroom, like random places. And sometimes people, they would go to the bathroom on a public trail. Now imagine, has anyone been hiking before? Okay. Imagine somebody, there's a trail and then there's like trees and stuff around. Imagine somebody, instead of going behind a tree, they go to the bathroom on the trail. And then you're going to have to like walk right past where they went to the bathroom. You might step in it. It's going to smell bad. The Prophet said, don't do that. There were some people who did that. He says, you know what? This is very bad. Do not go to the bathroom in a place where other people are going to be passing by. Go in a private place. Likewise, some people, what they do is when they use the bathroom, they go to the bathroom and they leave drops of their own stuff on the toilet seat. And then they leave. And the next person comes in and guess what? They have to sit there and they have to look at your stuff that you've left behind. That is harming people in a way. So you do not go to the bathroom in a way that's going to harm others, because that's harming other people. So be very, very careful about that. Number 4, when you enter into the bathroom, when you walk into the toilet area, you're supposed to make a dua. So you say, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-khubuthi wal-khaba'ith. Say, oh Allah, I seek refuge in you from impurity and from filth, from impure things. All right, so this is one translation. There's another translation about it being like the male and female devils. But I prefer this first translation, that it's referring to impurity. So you're asking Allah to protect you. So if you don't have that memorized, what you can do is you can just simply say, oh Allah, you say it in English. Say, oh Allah, protect me from filthy things. Because you're going into a bathroom, there's a lot of filthy things. So that's the area where everyone disposes of their filth and their waste. So you making this dua is something that is recommended as well. Number 5, when you walk into the bathroom, you walk in with your left foot. Now, normally, when you walk into the masjid, you're supposed to walk in with your right foot. When you walk into your house, you're supposed to walk in with your right foot. When you eat your food, you're supposed to use your right hand, right? But the bathroom is a place of filthy things, right? It's a dirty place. All the gross stuff is coming out. So the Prophet taught us to do the opposite. Since you're going into a dirty place, you do the opposite and you walk in with your left foot. Okay. So when you walk into the toilet, into the bathroom, you walk inside with your left foot. Also, I think what we're number 5, that's number 6. It is disliked. It's not haram, but it's better not to talk while you're in the bathroom. Some people have long phone conversations, they're having conversation with somebody else. This is only if it's like really, really important. It's recommended to not talk when you're inside the bathroom. Okay, so number 6. Number 7, when you clean yourself, right, you are supposed to use your left hand. So when you eat, you use your right hand. When you shake somebody's hand and you say, Assalamu alaikum, use your right hand, okay? But when it comes to the bathroom, because you're doing something that's kind of gross, right? It's something that's filthy, you're going to use your left hand instead, which kind of makes sense too. If you're going to clean with your right hand, then you come out of the bathroom, you, oh, Assalamu alaikum. It would be much nicer to have used the other hand, even though you washed it, right? There's like a symbolic, mental thing about it. So the Prophet taught us to do all good things with our right side, our right hand. But when we're doing dirty things, we do them with our left hand. So when you go to the bathroom, when you're going to clean yourself, you clean, whether you're using toilet paper or whether you're using water, you're going to clean with your left hand. Okay. So that's one other thing. When you clean, you're supposed to use one of 2 things when you clean yourself in the bathroom. Either you use water or you use a solid substance to wipe off the impurity from the front as well as from the back. And if you're using a solid substance, you're supposed to wipe at least 3 times rather than just once, because one time may not remove all of the stuff. Now, do you know what they used to use in the time of the Prophet? They used to use rocks. So they would actually grab some like stones, some smooth, like little bit smooth rocks, and they would use rocks and they would clean. So if they were smaller stones, like maybe like this big or something, they would use 3 of them and then they would throw them away and they would get cleaned, by the nature and the wind and things would get blown away and stuff like that. But if they had a really large one, they could use 3 pieces of that, 3 sides of that. So they would be wiping 3 times. They would use rocks for the solid substance, or they would use water, or they would use both. So you can do the same thing. Which one is the best to use? Water is better because it removes the impurity more, right? So think of this example. One person gave this example. It's a little bit graphic, but it makes sense, right? If you ever eaten like something like chicken tikka masala or like some kind of some type of like very highly seasoned food with your fingers, right? And you get like the oil stuck on your fingers, right? If you go and you get some tissue and you just like rub it like this, you still have the residue there on your fingers, right? When you wash it off properly, that's when it comes out. You don't feel the same just wiping it on a tissue. Exactly the same thing. Water cleans better. So it's always recommended to use water whenever you can. And that's why what Muslims do is they'll have water sprays. Every time you go to someone's house or you go to the masjid, they'll either have a water spray or they'll have like a little spout where you fill it with water so that you can pour it and you can clean yourself with water. And a lot of Muslims will have like little bottles with them. When they go into the library, they go into the airport, they're going to fill up water and they're going to use the water inside the toilet. I got this little cool collapsible bottle I keep in my backpack. You just fill it up with water. You can reuse it. You can, use a plastic bottle or whatever it is. So it's very important to use water. That's highly, highly recommended. But if you can't find water, then you have to use something that's a solid substance like toilet paper. Right? Use that, and you have to wipe at least 3 times or more. If you wipe 3 or 5 or 7 odd number of times is recommended, and you're supposed to be wiping with your left hand. What you do not do is you never leave the bathroom without cleaning and without wiping. This has unfortunately become a very common practice in America. People, especially men, they go to the bathroom and they use a urinal. And what do? After going to the bathroom, they just zip up and they walk away. They either don't wash their hands and they don't clean themselves. And this is something that's very serious in Islam. This is haram. It's haram to not clean yourself after you use the bathroom, front as well as the back. A lot of people, they're skipping the front. They just don't even care. So it's very important that you have to wipe and wipe at least 3 times or use water. All right. When you're done, and by the way, when you're using water, so you're going to pour with your right hand. If you're pouring, you're going to pour with your right hand, and you're going to use your left hand to actually clean your rear area, your back end of your area, so that it's completely clean. Some people who are not used to this, they're like, you're gonna touch yourself, and you're gonna like, that's kind of gross. You're gonna wash your hands afterwards, but it's better that you're clean than, especially in the summer, if you don't clean yourself properly, then you put your pants back on, and then it's heat, you start sweating, and that stuff starts coming out into your pants. It's disgusting. So it's a gross culture. A lot of people, they don't clean themselves properly. A Muslim is supposed to clean themselves properly when they use the bathroom. So you finish that, and then when you exit the bathroom, you walked in with your left foot. How do you walk out? With your right foot. So when you walk into the masjid, you walk in with your right foot. How do you walk out? With your left foot. Okay. So there's an order of doing things in and out. So with the bathroom, flipped around. Okay. You walk in with your left, you walk out with your right. And when you walk out with your right, you say ghufranak. Recommend. Ghufranak means, oh Allah, I ask you for forgiveness. Why? There's a few reasons. One is that you were not supposed to remember Allah while you were in the bathroom. So you were not thinking of Allah at all. You were not saying something. So that's one reason. And 2, you may have done something mistake or something like that in the bathroom. So you ask Allah for forgiveness, like saying astaghfirullah. And lastly, you wash your hands. Okay. So these are toilet manners in Islam. Questions? Yes.
This one's actually about wudu. I just remembered.
You remember the wudu? Okay.
So there's this one. I watched a video on the Masjid al-Libat channel, and Farouk teaching how to do wudu, and he goes with the mouth and nose at the same time.
Yeah, that's permissible. Yeah, some scholars do that. Other questions? Clear? Okay. Next, purifying water and cleaning impurities. So when you're making wudu, what kind of water can you use? So you're going to use the water that comes out of the tap. It's natural water. Can you use water from a pond? Yes, you can. Can you use water from a lake? Yes, you can. Can you use water from a river? Yes, you can. As long as it's clean.
That have to be like a certain size.
Oh, getting to that. So can you use water from the ocean? Like salty water? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. So if you're at the beach and you're like, you know what? It's so far to walk all the way back to the bathroom. Can you make wudu in the water of the ocean? Yes, you can. You can make wudu from that water. So you're allowed to use sweet, like normal water. You're allowed to use the salty water of the ocean. And as long as it's water, you're allowed to use it. Okay. Now, if the water is dirty, right? If somebody, the water is dirty and you have like something gross has fallen into it and you can tell that it's like dirty, then obviously you're not going to use it. But otherwise, other than that, you can use any type of clean water that's out there. Okay. So that is the type of water you can use. Now, cleaning impurities. So first of all, we need to understand what is an impurity or what's called najasa in Islam. So there are a few things. Number one, anything that comes out of your private parts. So urine is impurity. Stool, poop is feces, is an impurity. Semen is impurity. Pre-seminal fluid is an impurity. These are things that pretty much come out of your private parts. So those things are considered to be impurities. So number one. Number two, vomit is an impurity. Number three, blood. And number four, pus. And pus is like when you get a cut or something like that, and then it starts coming out of your wound. It's like a fluid or liquid that comes out of your wound. It smells pretty bad, kind of like type of blood almost. Those four things are considered to be the things that are impure. If any of those things are on your body or on your clothes or on your place where you're going to be praying, you need to wash it off before you can pray. It's not allowed for you to pray. So if you have blood, if you have vomit, if you have urine, something happened, you have to clean it off before you're allowed to pray. Now, if there's just a little tiny bit, right, there's a small amount and you're like, I'm trying to get it off, but it's really hard, that's okay. That's forgiven. Allah doesn't make it so difficult for you. But other than that, if it's more than just a small amount, you have to make sure you're cleaning it off. Okay? So it's very, very important to do that. And that is it on this section. Questions? Yes. Huh? Even children's vomit. Okay. Yeah.
Where does dogs like spit come into? Like, where is it classified?
Oh yeah, you're right. So actually, so the dog saliva is another one that should be put in this category. It's good. I forgot to add that. So let me add that here. Yeah. So the difference of opinion, only the Maliki school says allowed, but the rest of them say it's there. So you have to wash it off as well. So if you have dog saliva on you, you also do need to wash that off. Okay. And pig saliva, but that's extremely rare for someone to have. I don't know why. Strange. I was in San Diego the other day. Actually saw a lady like walking a pig, walking a dog, and I've never seen this in my. Is this like a new thing, a trend or something like that? The lady was actually walking a pig, and you couldn't believe it. I don't know what's going on. Is this normal, or has anyone seen this before in their life? You seen it at Huntington Beach? Yeah. So I saw it in San Diego. The lady just walking a pig. It was just weird, man. Okay. Anyways, so yeah, dog saliva and pig saliva. If it's on you, you need to wash that off. Other questions? Yeah.
If somebody like if they don't do ghusl out of like they don't know what it is, like are they forgiven for it? Like let's say they were young and they had a wet dream or something like that. It's like I have a lot of friends at school.
So they need to learn. They should be attending this class. But if you don't know something and you make a mistake, the question is Allah going to hold you accountable? He's going to hold you accountable to the extent that you could have learned, but you didn't. So if you had access to it, you could have gotten the book, you could have taken the class, but you're just lazy and you didn't want to learn anything. Allah's going to hold you accountable for your ignorance, not necessarily for skipping out on what you did. Okay. Other questions? Okay. Next, we have a few more minutes. All right. So there are some concessions. Concessions means in order to make your life easier, Allah didn't want to make, if it's going to be very difficult for you, something's going to be very difficult for you, Allah gave some exceptions to make your life a little bit easier when it comes to wudu and ghusl and washing and things like that. So the first concession is wiping over socks. Now, when you make wudu, remember we talked about there are 4 parts that you must wash at least once. Who can remind me what they are? What's one of them? Face. What's the second one? Arms, including the hands. What's the third one? Hair. How much? Part of your head. And what was the fourth one? The feet. Right? So the feet, so all of these 4 need to be washed, but there's one exception, and that is people usually wear socks. And if they were, and in the past, they used to sometimes wear socks too. So now if you're wearing socks, it would be sometimes difficult to take off your socks every single time, especially if it's in the winter or it's cold and then your feet are wet and you put them back on. So Allah made it easy for us that there's an exception, but you can only have the exception if you follow all the rules. You have to follow the rules in order for the exception to count. So if you're going to wipe over your socks, you have to follow these rules. Rule number 1, you have to put your socks on after you've made wudu. So you have to make wudu first and then put your socks on. Otherwise, you won't be able to wipe over them. So let's say you wake up in the morning and you've been sleeping and you wake up in the morning. Can you wipe over your socks when you're making wudu? No, because you didn't have wudu, because sleep breaks your wudu. So you have to, number 1, wear them after you've made wudu. Number 2, they need to be thick. Now what thick means is that they're thick enough that when you wipe over them, the water doesn't start going straight onto your foot. Because if they're so thin, they're like pantyhose, right? Pantyhose, like you touch it, it's like the water is going straight through. It's really, really thin. So it has to be a little bit thicker than that so that water is not going directly through. Number 3, it needs to cover up to your ankles. It has to cover your whole foot and has to cover your ankles. So those no-show socks that are like under the ankles, you cannot wipe over those. And the reason is pretty clear. When you wash your feet in wudu, do you wash up to your ankle? You do, including your ankle? Yes. So the same part that you have to wash in wudu, your sock has to cover that entire area. Otherwise, you could just wear like a half, like, I don't know, a wristband around your shoe and be like, oh, I'm just gonna wipe over that part, then I'll wash over the rest of the part. You have to wear the sock that covers every part of your foot, including the ankles. Okay, that's number 3. Number 4, you only have 24 hours to wipe over your socks. This is what the Prophet said. You have 24 hours is 1 day. So if you're gonna wipe over your socks, you get to do it for 24 hours before you have to take your socks off. If you're traveling, you can do it for 72 hours, which is 3 days. Okay. And if the period ends, you have to take your socks off and you have to wash your feet again. So that's number 4. Number 5, if you remove your socks, you can't wipe over them anymore. You have to make wudu again and then put them back on. And lastly, number 6, when you wipe over your socks, are you actually cleaning your feet? You're not cleaning your feet, right? So when you wipe over your socks, you wipe over the top of your sock. So if this is your foot, you're going to wipe over the top part of your sock. There are many people, they wipe underneath their sock, thinking that they're somehow cleaning their socks. You're not cleaning your socks. This is symbolic. So what you're doing is you're wiping over the top of the sock only. And what you're going to do is you're going to wet both hands, and then you're going to wipe over both socks. You could do one and one, or you could just do both at the same time. Right hand for the right sock, left hand for the left sock, and you just wipe from the front and you wipe up like this. Okay. So that is wiping over socks. You got to meet those 6 requirements. Any questions on wiping over socks? Nope.
Could you clarify why it's symbolic again? I don't.
No, because not cleaning anything, right? So the thing is, your socks don't get cleaned by what you're not washing your socks, right? You're simply wiping, and you're wiping with such a little amount of water. You wet your hands with water. You just have a little few drops of water on here. So you're just doing a symbolic gesture, which is very similar to the tayammum that we're going to learn next week, inshallah. Okay. So that's just to make life easy for you. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Okay, so we'll leave it at that and we'll see you next week. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. Astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum. Okay, close. Do you know how to stop sharing? I'm going to teach you how to do this too. Click on stop share. Stop share. Okay, now end the meeting.
Can I press on? No.
No, Yusuf's going to do it today.